Today we'll be talking about communication through fiber optic cables, and we'll be having details about the fiber optics, the optical fiber, and the communication through optical fibers. And I have named this lecture as Communicating Through Light, as we'll be transmitting the light signals through the fiber. So let's start with the basics. The very early man started to communicate, as man is a social animal, so he needs to interact with his fellows and all. And so he started communicating with the help of smoke signals, and gradually he used pigeons to send his messages, which was followed by Morse code, and the code was decoded. There was a signals were to be transferred, were coded and were decoded at the receiver end. Then came the radio, the wireless radio, followed by telephones, fax, mobile phones, and with these mobile phones combined with the internet gadgets, gave us the smartphones which we are using today. The most primitive methods of communication were the cave paintings, the smoke signals, the clay tablets, the runners or the messengers. Manually, the message was sent. The message was either written or it was an orally delivered message. And the lighthouse, from where the light signals were transferred through the open space. They were like towers, and the light signals were transferred through open space. This concept was thought of in the practical purposes after the Industrial Revolution by Alexander Graham Bell, who proposed that the sunbeam can be used to modulate the voice signals, and these modulated voice signals, with the help of various mirrors and lenses, can be focused to the receiver, where these can be converted back into electrical signals, and the receiver can uh, understand, or he can listen to the signals. So this kind of device was proposed by Alexander Bell, and the open space from where those optical signals were transferred has now been replaced by the optical fiber, because it is not possible to send these light waves for very long distances. We have buildings, we have, and the land is not at the same altitude and all. This was the receiver. The light waves were received at this end. After optical adjustment, it was the signal was converted into electrical ones, and these are the earphones that were used to listen the optical signals. This is the sunbeam that was being focused, and the light signal was used to modulate this incident sunbeam, and these modulated sun rays were sent to the by means of multiple reflections to the. Now let us consider a building, a closed building. We use torch in the present time to illuminate the building, but what was done in the olden days when there was no torch, no electricity? So the incident sun rays that fall into the building were reflected with the help of the mirrors at the walls, at the bends. And thus the whole building was illuminated by multiple reflections from these mirrors. Now we understand the phenomena of total internal reflection. We have studied that when a light ray passes through a denser medium like glass, it passes throughout. Let us consider a prism, a glass prism. When the light falls on the first surface of the prism, it slightly bends and bends again from the second surface. Now, this bending of light, just observe this bending of light. If we have some means Here, the refractive index of the air is less than the refractive index of glass, which is about 1.5, and the refractive index of air is 1. And that is the reason why a pencil which is dipped in a glass doesn't appear straight. And if we have some means of changing the refractive index of the glass, of the prism, we'll observe that this bending increases, and at a certain limit, the refracted light coincides with the surface of the prism, and a position is reached where the light is totally internally reflected inside the prism. This can be achieved when the angle of the incidence is greater than a specific angle called the critical angle for that medium, and this phenomena is called the total internal reflection. So present day optical fiber is a hollow glass tube. There are multiple glass tubes which are transparent, of course flexible, and as thin as a human hair. So basically, if we are asked to define an optical fiber, then it is a flexible transparent fiber made by a glass or any plastic to a diameter slightly of the order of the human hair. And they are the most often as a means to transmit light, and are widely used in fiber optical communications where they permit transmission over long distances at very high bandwidths than that is possible with the electrical cables. These fibers are used instead of the metallic wires because signals travel with the velocity of light, and the transmission loss is very less than the metallic wires that we used earlier. Going into the historical background, in the late 90s and in the earlier 20th centuries, light was guided through a bent glass rods to illuminate bodies. Image transmission through tubes was demonstrated independently by Hansel and Baird in 1920s. And in 1930s, Lamb showed that one could transmit image through a bundle of unclad optical fibers and use this system for internal medical examinations. And in 1953, a Dutch scientist, Bram, first demonstrated the image transmission through bundles of optical fibers with a transparent cladding. In 1953, at the Imperial College in London, it was shown that with over 10,000 fibers and subsequently they achieved a transmission over 75 centimeter long bundle. And the scientists which were able to do this, one of the group members was an Indian. And in 1960, the laser was developed by Mayman and his co-workers. The first laser was ruby laser, which used the ruby crystal. And in 1966, it was resolved that if the attenuation of glass is due to largely due to the presence of impurities, and if we are able to develop a glass of attenuation of only 20 decibel per kilometer, then the optical communication could become a reality. So we started for developing such kind of glass and the technology to build it. As we have seen that if the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle for the medium, the light will be totally internally reflected. And after multiple reflections, it can be transmitted through the optical fiber. Here we have the two mediums, the glass and the air. The refractive index of glass is greater than the reflective index of air. But we can't use this for transmission over long distances. So we ought to have a protective coating. So this covering should be such that this covering, we call cladding, its refractive index should be less than the refractive index of the core. Only then the propagation will be possible. So the optical fiber contains a hollow core surrounded by a cladding of lower refractive index and which is ultimately covered with a coating that is to preserve this system, this glass system. So we say, you see here that there is a core surrounded by a cladding of lower refractive index and which is ultimately covered with a plastic coating, and the light after multiple reflections is transmitted through the core. These are the layers: the core, which is about 8 micrometers, the cladding, which is a thickness of about 125 micrometers, buffer having a thickness of 250 micrometers, and ultimately a jacket at the outermost layer with a thickness of 400 micrometers. Now we study the modes that are possible in the fiber. The modes are limited with the condition that the propagation constant, this is the condition for the propagation constant, beta should be greater than N2K and should be less than N1K, where N1 and N2 are the refractive indices of the core and the cladding. So when this beta is equal to N2K, then the phase velocity is equal to the velocity of light in the cladding and mode cannot be propagated or it cannot be guided, and therefore the mode is said to be cut off. And if the frequencies are below the cutoff frequency, that means beta is less than N2K, then the propagation does not cease abruptly below cutoff. Mode exists on the core cladding surfaces, both the core cladding surfaces, and some radiation is lost outside. All the radiation is not totally internally reflected. There are radiation losses which are termed as radiation modes. If beta is greater than N2K, then the less power is propagated in the cladding. That means there are less radiation and all the power is confined in the fiber core. So this is the condition for perfect guidance of the light beam through the core. Now we come to the parameters of the optical fiber. The first parameter is the numerical aperture. It defines of the collecting capability of the fiber, and it is defined as the sine of the angle theta, which is numerically equal to the cross square root of the differences of the squares of the refractive indices of core and cladding. Its value ranges from 0.12 to 0.2 for microns for single mode fibers and 0.2 to zero point 0.5 microns for multi-mode fibers. We will be discussing about single and multi-mode fibers later on. And if the core and the cladding have the same, almost the same index of refraction, the numerical aperture will be small. If this core and the refractive index of the cladding are nearly equal, then the value of the numerical aperture will be small. This can also be defined in terms of the normalized difference in refractive index. And on observation, we see that this numerical aperture is dependent only on the refractive index and is independent of the diameters of the core and the cladding. That means the thickness of the core and the cladding is not important for numerical aperture definition. Only the refractive indices is important. The other parameters are the average refractive index, the normalized refractive index difference, in whose terms we defined the numerical aperture before. There is also a quantity called V number, which is defined this way. This is the numerical aperture. The value of this V number, if it is less than 2.405, then only one mode exists, that is the fundamental mode. If it is greater than 1 and between 1 and 2.405, then this is for the single mode fiber. And if the value is greater than 2.405, it is a multi-mode fiber. And the number of the modes is defined in terms of V, which is equal to M is equal to V square upon 2. Now let us observe the theory behind this. As we know that the light is a transverse wave having two propagations. One is the electric vector and one is the magnetic vector, or both of them vibrating at right angles to the direction of the propagation. And these fields are governed by the Maxwell's equation. These are the Maxwell's equations. These are the four Maxwell's equations, and these are the relations between the fields. These four equations can be combined to reduce into two wave equations of the electric and the magnetic field. We have studied this theory while studying the propagation of electromagnetic waves in the waveguide. These two, the electric field and the magnetic field equations, wave equations, can be generalized for a common wave equation. And in terms of the Cartesian coordinates for the rectangular waveguide, this left-hand side can be reduced to this. And for a cylindrical waveguide, this can be reduced to the cylindrical coordinates. We take an assumed solution of the form where omega is the frequency, k is the propagation constant of the electromagnetic wave. And in the most general form, this potential can be assumed in this form. And the governance of these potentials and the values of the fields at the output we have already derived while studying the propagation of electromagnetic waves in the rectangular and circular waveguides. You can see those previous lectures of waveguides for the value of the fields and how the fields will vary. Now this plane monochromatic wave will propagate in the direction of the ray with a guide of refractive index N1 sandwiched between the two regions of the lower refractive index N2. The N2 is the refractive index of the cladding and N1 is the refractive index of the core. For monochromatic light field, a mode traveling in the positive z direction has a time and z dependence, which is given by this exponentially varying quantity. The other quantity that we use, this is the exponentially varying, and this is a constant amplitude. So now what we see, we have a mode generated in the core, and if this crosses once, then it is the mode number is 1, m is equal to 1. And if this crosses twice during this region, the mode number is 2. And if it crosses thrice, the mode number is 3. The modes are similar to the modes in waveguides, the transverse electric, the transverse magnetic, and transverse electromagnetic. For the transverse electromagnetic mode, the longitudinal field of the electric field, the longitudinal component of the electric field is 0. And for the transverse magnetic mode, the longitudinal component of the magnetic field is 0. And for the transverse electromagnetic mode, longitudinal components of both the electric and magnetic fields are 0. And the propagation is not possible in this mode. We have some fields which are important for the propagation. In the cladding, the field takes this form. This is the incident electromagnetic field, and this is the modulated by the change in the refractive index. This is the fact. And this type of field stores energy and transports it in the direction of the propagation, but does not transport energy in the transverse direction. Because we need the energy to be transferred in the direction of propagation only, and the energy loss in the transverse direction will lead to radiation losses only. And for this, the requirements are that the cladding material should be transparent to light at the wavelengths over which the guiding waveguide has to operate. It should consist of a solid material to avoid both damage to the guide and the accumulation of foreign matter on the guide walls. The cladding thickness should be of the order of 125 micrometer, and that must be sufficient to allow the fields to decay to a low value or losses from the penetrating energy may be encountered. The most widely used optical fiber consists of a core and cladding, both made of glass. Of course, the refractive index of the cladding is lower than that of the core. These fibers can be classified into two: the step index fiber and the graded index fiber. Since we talked that the refractive index of cladding is less than the refractive index of core, so this difference can be a sudden one. And this is the refractive index of the N2 is the refractive index of the core, and N1 is the refractive index of the cladding. So there is a sharp difference between the two refractive indices. This is called a step index fiber. And when this difference in the refractive index is not sharp, it decreases gradually, then we call this as graded index fiber. In the step index fiber, the propagation is like what we studied before, total internal reflection from both the boundaries. But in graded index fiber, it is a helical, and the wave does not cross this axis. This is the axis of the core. The waves will be reflected like this, they will not cross. First, we go for the step index fiber. It is a fiber in which the core is of a uniform refractive index, and there is a sharp decrease in the index of refraction at the cladding. The step index fiber is of two types: the monomode or the single mode fiber and multi-mode fiber. And the signal distortion is more in the case of high angle rays in multi-mode step index fiber. In single mode step index fiber, there is no distortion. The bandwidth is about 50 megahertz per kilometer for multi-mode, whereas it is more than 100 megahertz per kilometer for a single mode step index fiber. And the diameter of the core is between 50 to 200 micrometer in the case of multi-mode, and about 10 micrometer in the case of a single mode fiber. And these such kind of fibers are used for short distance communication. And attenuation of light rays is more in multi-mode step index fibers, but for a single mode step index fiber, it is very less. The attenuation is a kind of loss, a kind of signal loss or the resistance offered by the waveguide. We will take into account later on. And the numerical aperture of the multi-mode step index fiber is more, whereas in a single mode step index fiber, it is very less. The pulse broadening and the intermodal dispersion is present in a step index fiber. Now we see that the graded index fiber, where the refractive index of the cladding is constant in the case of graded index fiber, as the nature of the refractive index is somehow parabolic. You see, this is a parabola. Maximum at the center and gradually decreasing. The light rays propagate in the form of skew rays or helical rays, and they will never cross the fiber axis. Inside the fiber, the signal distortion is very low, even though the rays travel with different speeds. The graded index fiber has a higher bandwidth. The bandwidth of the fiber lies between 200 megahertz per kilometer to 600 megahertz per kilometer, even though theoretically it has an infinite bandwidth. Now we differentiate these two kinds of fibers. The refractive index of the core is uniform in the step index throughout, and there is an abrupt change. And in the gradient index, it is maximum at the center and decreases gradually. The diameter is 50 to 200 micrometer in multimode and 10 micrometer in single mode fiber, where the diameter of core is 50 micrometer in case of a multimode fiber. For gradient index, the light has a path zigzag path, where light has a helical path in the gradient index. Attenuation is more in single mode, which is while it is less in the gradient index fiber. The light propagates in the form of meridional rays, where it is askew rays in the case for the gradient index fiber, and the number of the modes of propagation is defined like this, while it is related to the gradient index mode by this relation, and we see that the more number of modes in the graded index are half than that of the step index fiber. We have, of course, losses in the optical fibers, which can be broadly classified into three: the attenuation loss, the dispersion loss, and the waveguide loss. The attenuation losses are the absorption and the scattering losses, and the attenuation coefficient is defined as the fractional decrease in the optical power per unit length of propagation. This is the ratio of the optical power, and in decibels, it is the logarithmic decrement. And just observe that this is dependent on the length of propagation. It is not dependent on any other parameters like numerical aperture or the refractive index. It is only dependent on length. There are bending losses which exist when the fiber cable is bent. They are macroscopic bending, when the full fiber cable is bent, and they are microscopic bending when there is some small pressure applied at the micro levels. And in both the cases, the condition for total internal reflection is disturbed due to the bending. And so the light is not totally internally reflected, there are some losses. The second kind is the absorption loss, which is the absorption of the light energy due to heating of ion impurities. And there are of two types: intrinsic absorption caused by the interaction with one or more components of the glass, and occurs when photon interacts with an electron in the valence band and excites to a higher energy level near the ultraviolet region. And the second is the extrinsic absorption, which is also called the impurity absorption, which results from the presence of the transition metal ions like iron, chromium, cobalt, copper, and other OH ions, that is from water. Next is the dispersion losses, which are of two types: intermodal dispersion, which is from the pulse broadening due to intermodal dispersion and results from the propagation differences between modes within a multimode fiber, and the intramodal dispersion, which is the pulse spreading that occurs within a single mode. And there are two more: the material dispersion, which is due to the material that is dependent on the refractive index of the core and its variation with the wavelength. And the second is the waveguide dispersion, which is due to the power losses in the core and cladding surfaces. Another class is the scattering loss, There are two kinds of scatterings in the linear scattering, which are Rayleigh scattering, high scattering, and the waveguide scattering, and the non-linear are the Brillouin scattering and the Raman scattering. These scatterings we will be discussing in our future lectures, and I've already posted lectures on Raman scattering and Rayleigh scattering and Thomson scattering. Present today, we are using fiber everywhere to connect the various continents for all kinds of communication, right from CCTV to the telephone communication and all. All the whole world is connected through fiber cables. To see the map of United States, and the application is everywhere as it is the least expensive and the most reliable method for the high speed communication or long distance communication, as the communication is with the speed of light, which is the highest speed existing anywhere. It is between the installations or inside the installation. This is a telephone exchange. This is the fiber optical cable, underground fiber optical cable being laid. This is a fiber optical cable inside the sea bed. Practically, you can see that this is a fiber, this is a transparent fiber, and the light is propagating in this way. And you see, if we vary the angle of incidence, just see the difference. How the propagation is affected by changing the angle of incidence. The greater is the angle of incidence, the more is the mode number. Let's come to the present day application of endoscopy. The doctor uses a fiber cable which goes through your esophagus, food canal to the stomach, where he observes what is happening inside your body in the digestive tract. And such a kind of examinations are also done through rectum, for that is called chronoscopy, and angiography, where the fiber is inserted through the hand, and also in many other applications. So I will end my lecture here, and thanks for the patient listening. You can post your doubts and queries, and I will be happy to answer them. And please do remember to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.